It's 5:15 in the morning in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and an 18-year-old kid from a small town in Georgia named Devon woke up 11 seconds ago to someone screaming in his face. He has 30 seconds to be dressed, standing at attention outside his dormitory room in a uniform he does not yet fully know how to wear correctly. Yesterday morning he was a civilian. Yesterday he had a phone, a pillow he liked, and a mother who made him breakfast. Yesterday he could go to sleep when he wanted, eat what he wanted, and nobody cared how he stood. That was yesterday. Today is Doolie Day, the first day of basic cadet training at the United States Air Force Academy, and the next 6 weeks are going to do something to Devon that no amount of preparation could have warned him about.
Now picture this happening at exactly the same time, but differently. In Changchun, China, inside the People's Liberation Army Air Force Aviation University. A Chinese cadet named Wei is also waking up before sunrise for morning physical training. He will run, he will drill, he will study. The schedule is punishing. The expectations are high. In many ways, the surface of both experiences looks similar, but when you go deeper, when you look at what these two young men eat, how they sleep, how they train, and what kind of officer the system is deliberately trying to build, the differences are profound, and they tell you more about the future of air power than any jet specification ever could. Today we are going inside both academies, the real daily life, the real food, the real training, and the real philosophy behind how each country turns an 18-year-old into someone who might one day fly the most advanced aircraft on Earth. Drop a comment right now. Which academy do you think has the harder training? Let's see where people stand before we get into it. Doolie Day, the most deliberately overwhelming first day in military education. Before basic cadet training at the U.S. Air Force Academy even begins, there is a moment that nobody who has been through it ever forgets. On In-Processing Day, called I-Day, which upperclassmen call Doolie Day, the new arrivals are processed, stripped of their civilian identities, and then brought to a bus. An officer stands at the front and tells them plainly, if you are not sure you want to do this, you can stay on the bus right now. The bus will take you back. There will be no shame, no consequences, and no questions. This is the last easy exit. After this, the easy exits are gone. Almost nobody stays on the bus, but the offer is deliberate. The Air Force Academy is not interested in cadets who are there because they could not figure out how to leave. It wants people who choose it in the clearest possible terms, and that choice, made in front of a busload of strangers, in the loudest and most chaotic environment most of them have ever been in, is the first leadership test of the next 4 years. What follows I-Day is 6 weeks of basic cadet training, also known as BCT, which is designed to strip away every comfortable habit a civilian teenager has built and replace it with the fundamentals of military life. Days begin at 5:15 a.m. The schedule runs until TAPS at 11 p.m. In between, there is physical conditioning, weapons training, marching drills, uniform and dormitory inspections, honor and ethics instructions, and the relentless, deliberate pressure of upperclassmen who are permitted to get in your face about virtually everything you are doing wrong. The first 3 weeks happen on the main campus. The next 3 happen at Jacks Valley, which is a 3,300-acre rural training area where cadets live in tents, run obstacle courses, learn small unit tactics, and fire weapons. There is no air conditioning in the tents. There is no privacy anywhere. First-year cadets at the academy are called Doolies, from the ancient Greek word doulos, meaning subject or servant. The name is intentional. A Doolie is at the bottom of every hierarchy that exists in the academy, expected to show deference to every upperclassman, walk only on designated tiles rather than shortcuts across the terrazzo, greet every officer they pass, and keep their room in inspection-ready condition at all times. The room itself is shared between 2 cadets in a space roughly 13 by 18 feet small, but notably larger and more private than anything most military training environments offer. The Air Force has decided that cadets need enough personal space to study and recover because the academic program demands it. The academic program is not an afterthought. The Air Force Academy is a fully accredited university that ranks among the most demanding undergraduate institutions in the country. Cadets carry course loads in engineering, science, mathematics, and humanities alongside their military training, taking real college classes from real professors while simultaneously being drilled, inspected, and physically pushed in ways that would end most people's ability to concentrate on thermodynamics. The point is not to make the academics easy. The point is to teach cadets that they can function at a high intellectual level even when they are exhausted, stressed, and uncomfortable, because that is the environment they will be leading people in. Doolie Day is the second best day at the Air Force Academy, only after graduation, said Chief Master Sergeant, United States Air Force, overseeing basic cadet training. The Doolie year is designed to break comfortable habits and build new ones. But here is the thing that distinguishes it from pure punishment, because the Air Force Academy is not trying to break its cadets. It is trying to build something specific in them. And what it feeds them, how it houses them, and what freedom it gives them along the way reflects a very deliberate philosophy about what kind of officer America needs. That philosophy becomes much clearer when you see what is happening at Changchun at the same time. Inside the People Liberation Army Air Force Academy, where the Gaokao score decides your entire future before you arrive. In 2024, over 1,000 students applied to the dual enrollment program at the People Liberation Army Air Force Aviation University in Changchun, a prestigious track where top academic achievers are simultaneously enrolled in civilian universities and the military academy, designed to produce cadets who excel in both academic and military domains. Of those 1,000 applicants, 90 were selected, not 900, but 90. That acceptance rate of roughly 9% is more competitive than Harvard, and it happens before the applicant has ever set foot inside a military facility. Getting into a PLAAF academy requires first surviving one of the most pressure-filled examinations in the world, China's National College Entrance Examination, also known as the Gaokao. A student who wants to attend a PLAAF flight academy must list specific academies on their Gaokao preference sheet and achieve a qualifying score for that institution. If they do not score high enough for any of their 3 choices, they cannot attend any other PLAAF academy even if their score would qualify them elsewhere. The door closes completely. The only remaining path into the PLAAF as an officer is to enlist and hope to be selected from the enlisted ranks years later. One exam score, taken on 2 days in June, determines everything. For those who make it in, the daily life at a PLAAF Aviation Academy is intensely regimented in ways that share surface similarities with the U.S. Air Force Academy but reflect a fundamentally different philosophy underneath. Days begin before 6 a.m. with mandatory group physical training, which includes running in formation and calisthenics, performed in unison. Everything is done collectively and on schedule. Meals are eaten in large group dining halls on a fixed schedule. There is no wandering to the cafeteria when you are hungry. You eat when the unit eats. You sit where you are told to sit. And the meal lasts as long as the schedule says it lasts. The ideological dimension of PLAAF cadet education is something the U.S. Air Force Academy has no direct equivalent for. Cadets receive regular political education classes and sessions on Xi Jinping, thought, on the history and mission of the Chinese Communist Party, on the ideological foundations of the People Liberation Army's loyalty to the party rather than to the state as such. This is not supplementary or optional material. It is a core component of what it means to become a PLAAF officer. The People Liberation Army's defining constitutional principle is that the party commands the gun, meaning military loyalty flows upward to the party's leadership, not to the nation in the abstract. Every PLAAF cadet is trained in this principle from day one, and their progression through the academy partly depends on demonstrating that they have genuinely internalized it. The barracks at PLAAF academies are communal and highly regulated. Cadets live in dormitory rooms with multiple bunkmates. Their schedules are synchronized down to when lights go off and when they wake up. Personal time is limited and structured. Phone use is restricted and in some phases of training prohibited entirely. The theory is that the collective takes priority over the individual at every level. This is a philosophy that runs through every aspect of life in a Chinese military academy and that produces a particular kind of disciplined, group-oriented officer. The PLAAF has been explicit about the goal, which is to produce pilots who think and act as part of a system, who subordinate personal judgment to collective doctrine and who are technically excellent with defined parameters. One area where PLAAF academies have been making rapid and visible changes is flight training itself. In 2021, the Shizhuang Flight Academy began putting cadets directly into advanced trainer jets, skipping the intermediate training aircraft that had been used for decades after evidence showed the approach could accelerate pilot development by roughly 30%. By 2024, the Academy had completely replaced the older training program, retiring the JL-8 intermediate trainer in favor of a streamlined path to the JL-10, which closely resembles the cockpit environment of frontline 4th-generation fighters. China cut a full year out of its pilot training timeline in 2024, specifically to get more pilots into operational units faster. The training is being compressed, modernized, and focused not because standards are being lowered, but because the threat environment China perceives demands a larger, faster-trained pilot force than the old system could produce. 2 academies. 2 sets of cadets waking up before dawn, running before breakfast, studying engineering and learning to fly. The surface of both lives looks demanding and similar, but here is where the comparison becomes genuinely fascinating. Because what each academy chooses to feed its cadets, how it houses them, and what it gives them freedom to decide for themselves reflects a completely different answer to the same question. What does an Air Force officer actually need to be? The food, the rooms, and the one freedom that changes everything. Every weekday at 11:30 a.m. at the U.S. Air Force Academy, something happens that visitors from the viewing area of the Honor Court Hall describe as one of the most striking sights in American military education. The entire cadet wing, all 4,000 cadets, line up by squadron in front of Vandenberg Hall and march in formation across the terrazzo to Mitchell Hall for the mandatory noon meal. 4,000 future officers moving together in a dining hall that is the largest of its kind in the entire United States Air Force. They eat family style at tables of 10, served by rotating cadet duty assignments. The meal is conducted with a degree of formality that underscores the Academy's view that even eating together is a leadership and character exercise. The food at the Academy is nutritionally designed and adequate rather than extraordinary. This is not submarine food. There are no lobster tail nights and no special morale engineering baked into the menu. Cadets eat well by any institutional standard, with balanced meals, adequate protein for the physical demands placed on them, and variety across the week. But the dining experience is less about the food itself and more about what the forced communal meal represents, which is the entire institution, eating together, at the same time, as an expression of collective identity and shared purpose. The dormitory rooms, shared between 2 cadets in Vandenberg Hall or Saigon Hall, are approximately 13 by 18 feet. By military standards, this is generous. By cadet standards, it is the private space that makes the academic program survivable. Cadets who need to study for an engineering exam at 10 p.m. after a full day of military training and athletics need a quiet place to do it. The Academy provides that because it has concluded that the academic mission is inseparable from the military mission and that the intellectual development of its officers requires conditions where intellectual work is actually possible. The one freedom that defines the U.S. Air Force Academy experience more than any other is the freedom to fail and learn from it. American cadets are expected to exercise independent judgment, to take initiative, to make decisions in their leadership roles and within the squadron structure, and then be held accountable for the outcomes of those decisions. The upperclassman screaming at a Doolie is not trying to destroy independent thought paradoxically. Rather, the system is trying to create pressure-tested independent thinkers by making every decision consequential and every mistake a learning event. The Honor Code. We will not lie, steal, or cheat, nor tolerate among us anyone who does, is not enforced from outside. Cadets are expected to report violations by other cadets, including friends. The entire system is built on the premise that an officer's character matters as much as their technical skill, and character is built by navigating genuinely hard choices. At PLAAF academies, the food is filling and regimented. Standard military institutions are meals served collectively on a fixed schedule, with nutritional requirements met but menus designed for efficiency rather than morale engineering. The dormitory situation is more communal than at a U.S. Air Force Academy, which means more cadets per room, more collective regulation of the shared space, and less individual privacy. The principle is that the collective precedes the individual in every physical arrangement of daily life, reinforcing the same message that the ideological training delivers. What PLAAF academies do exceptionally well is technical aviation training. The flight hours cadets accumulate, the modern training aircraft they now use, the accelerated path to advanced jets. China has invested heavily in these, ensuring that when a PLAAF cadet graduates, they can fly. The 2024 training compression was not careless. It was built around evidence that cadets trained on the newer, more realistic JL-10 trainer acquired the skills of the older 3-stage program in less time, with more flying hours per cadet. The technical output of the system is improving year on year in measurable ways. Technical excellence, collective discipline, accelerated flight training on one side, independent judgment, honor code, academic rigor alongside military formation on the other. Both systems are producing officers. Both are improving. But here is the question that brings the whole comparison into focus, because training cadets is ultimately about building something in a person that cannot be trained out of them later, and the two countries have very different ideas about what that thing should be, what each system is actually building, and why it matters at 40,000 feet. 4 years after Doolie Day, Devon from Georgia stands on a parade field in Colorado Springs in his dress uniform, a second lieutenant's bar on his shoulder, and an Air Force Academy ring on his finger. He has survived 4 years of engineering coursework, military training, athletics, leadership positions with his squadron, and an honor code that required him to report a friend for an infraction in his junior year, which was the hardest thing he'd done in 4 years, and which the Academy told him afterwards was exactly what they were trying to build in him. He is 22 years old. He will go to pilot training, and in the cockpit of whatever aircraft he eventually flies, every hard decision he has been forced to make in the last 4 years is part of what he is bringing with him. The U.S. Air Force Academy is deliberately producing officers who can make good independent decisions in environments where no one is giving them orders, because American air power doctrine depends on that kind of individual initiative. The PLAAF Academy system is producing a different kind of officer, one who is technically excellent, collectively oriented, ideologically reliable, and trained to execute complex missions within doctrine with precision and discipline. For a rapidly modernizing Air Force that is expanding its fleet, increasing its flight hours, and building the institutional knowledge that combat experience has historically provided, that kind of officer is exactly what the doctrine demands. The PLAAF does not need its pilots to freelance. It needs them to execute at scale, within a networked battle management system, with the precision and reliability that only a thoroughly disciplined training pipeline can produce. Neither philosophy is simply right or wrong. They reflect genuine differences in what each Air Force is built to do and how each country has decided to use air power. These are two academies, two philosophies, and two young men who woke up before sunrise for 4 years and were turned into something their 18-year-old selves would barely recognize. Devon learned to fail in front of people and come back the next day. Wei learned to perform at the highest level as part of a system larger than himself. Both are real strengths. Both produce real officers. And the Air Force that figures out how to have both, the initiative and the discipline, the independence and the coordination, is the one that will be the hardest to beat in the sky above the Pacific in the years ahead. America has been building Devon for 70 years. China has been building Wei for 80 years and is getting faster and better at it with every graduating class. The cadet comparison is not a story about one system being obviously superior. It is a story about two countries investing enormously in the humans behind the aircraft, and about the fact that the next major air war will be decided as much by what those humans were built into during 4 years on opposite sides of the world as by anything the engineers designed into the jets they eventually fly. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Which academy would you choose? And which system do you think produces the better officer for the conflicts of the next 20 years? I want the argument.